My wife was pregnant with my brother's baby, and she'd been documenting every detail of their affair in a journal she hid in our nursery. The worst part? She was planning to name the baby after me. Let me take you back to how this all started. Sarah and I had been trying to conceive for 3 years. 3 long, heartbreaking years of negative pregnancy tests, fertility treatments, and watching our friends start families while we struggled. When she finally got pregnant last spring, I cried tears of joy in that doctor's office. This was our miracle baby. My brother Jake had always been the golden child, charming, successful, everything I wasn't. But when Sarah got pregnant, he seemed genuinely excited to be an uncle. He'd come over constantly, bringing baby gifts, helping set up the nursery, talking about how lucky our kid would be. I thought he was finally being the supportive brother I'd always wanted. Sarah glowed during her pregnancy. She'd spend hours in the nursery, organizing tiny clothes and writing in this beautiful leather journal. When I asked about it, she said she was documenting the pregnancy journey for our child to read someday. How sweet, I thought. How thoughtful. But then I started noticing things. She'd get mysterious text messages and quickly flip her phone face down. She'd take long walks alone, claiming she needed fresh air, but she'd come back glowing in a way that seemed different. And Jake started showing up when I wasn't home, always with some excuse about dropping something off or helping with house projects. The breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in my 7th month. I came home early from work, excited to surprise Sarah with takeout from her favorite restaurant. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I called her name and heard nothing. Then I heard it, soft voices coming from upstairs. From our bedroom. My heart stopped. This couldn't be happening. Not Sarah. Not my brother. I crept up the stairs, each step feeling like an eternity. The voices got clearer. Sarah's voice. Jake's voice. And they weren't just talking. I pushed open our bedroom door and my world shattered. There was Sarah, my pregnant wife, in bed with my brother. Her hands on his chest. His hands on her growing belly, the belly I'd been lovingly caressing for months, whispering to our baby. They froze when they saw me. Sarah scrambled to cover herself, tears streaming down her face. Jake just stared at me with this look of pity? Guilt? I couldn't tell. David, I can explain. Sarah started. But I was already backing away, my vision blurring, my chest tight. I ran downstairs and out of the house, driving aimlessly for hours until I ended up at a 24-hour diner, staring at coffee I couldn't drink. When I finally came home at 3 a.m., Jake's car was gone. Sarah was sitting on the couch, still in her robe, that damn journal clutched in her hands. We need to talk, she whispered. And then she told me everything. It had started 4 months ago, right after her first trimester. Jake had come over to help move some furniture while I was at work. One thing led to another. She said she felt guilty, tried to end it, but they couldn't stay away from each other. But the baby I choked out. Sarah's face crumbled. David, I need to tell you something else. My blood turned to ice. No. Please, no. The timeline, the baby, there's a chance. She couldn't even say it. But I knew. The dates she'd been so vague about. The way Jake touched her belly so possessively. The way he looked at her during family dinners. How long have you known? My voice sounded like a stranger's. I suspected for a few weeks. I got a paternity test done yesterday. She handed me a folded paper with shaking hands. 99.7% probability that Jake was the father. I felt my entire life collapse in that moment. The house we'd bought for our family. The nursery I'd painted. The name we'd chosen together. All of it was a lie. But then Sarah said something that made my blood boil. David, I know this is horrible, but maybe we can work through this. The baby will still need a father figure, and you've always wanted to be a dad. Are you insane? I stood up so fast the coffee table shook. You want me to raise my brother's child? Pretend this never happened? That's when she held up the journal. I know it's crazy, but I've been writing everything down. Every feeling, every moment. I thought, maybe someday you'd understand. She handed me the journal. Against my better judgment, I opened it. And that's when I discovered the most twisted part of all. This wasn't just a pregnancy journal. It was a detailed account of her affair with Jake. Every secret meeting. Every lie she told me. Every time they laughed about how clueless I was. She'd written about how Jake was so much more passionate than me. How they'd been planning to be together after the baby was born. But the entry that destroyed me was from 2 weeks ago. Jake thinks we should tell David the truth soon. But I have a better plan. We'll let David raise the baby as his own for the first few years, then Jake and I can be together without the financial burden of starting over. David's so desperate to be a father, he'll never question anything. We decided to name the baby David Jr. How perfect is that? Our little secret will be right there in his name. They were planning to use me. To let me bond with this child, pay for everything, do all the hard work, while they carried on their relationship behind my back. I closed the journal and looked at Sarah, who was watching me with hopeful eyes. You thought I'd understand? I asked quietly. She nodded. You're right. I do understand. I stood up and walked to our bedroom, Sarah following behind me, pleading. I packed a bag while she cried and begged. Then I grabbed the journal. What are you doing with that? She asked. Evidence. The next morning, I called a divorce lawyer. Then I called my parents. Then I called Jake's wife, Lisa, who had no idea her husband was having an affair with his pregnant sister-in-law. I read Lisa selected entries from the journal over the phone. She was quiet for a long time, then she said, "Thank you for telling me. I'm filing for divorce today." Sarah tried everything to get me back. She showed up at my new apartment crying, saying she'd end things with Jake, that she chose me. When that didn't work, she tried to convince me the paternity test was wrong. But I was done being manipulated. The divorce was finalized 3 months before the baby was born. Jake and Sarah are together now, struggling financially with a newborn and 2 messy divorces. Lisa took Jake for everything in their settlement. As for me, I kept the journal. Not out of bitterness, but as a reminder of my worth. I deserve someone who chooses me first, not as a backup plan or a financial safety net. I'm dating someone new now, a woman who's honest, kind, and would never dream of betraying the person she loves. We're taking things slow, building real trust. Sometimes I wonder about that baby, and I feel sad for an innocent child caught in such a mess. But that sadness doesn't mean I should have sacrificed my self-respect. Sarah texted me last month saying she regretted everything, that Jake wasn't the man she thought he was. I didn't respond. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. The funniest part? They named the baby David Jr. anyway. I guess some habits die hard. Have you experienced something like this? Tell me in the comments.